Maisie might be the most balanced brawler that Brawl Stars has put out in quite some time. Okay, I mean, alright, so maybe she's a little bit on the strong side, but she is so fun to play. In this video, I'm going to show you the 1v1 interactions for Maisie versus every other brawler in Brawl Stars, as well as explain all of her abilities as we go along. Now, Maisie is the chromatic brawler for the new season in Brawl Stars, so you'll find her on the Premium Brawl Pass at Tier 30. And, of course, if you want to guarantee getting her this season, you're going to need to pick up the Brawl Pass. And if you do that, I would appreciate you using code LEX. Maisie is a long-range brawler that deals 1,920 damage with her main shot. Now, that shot does have some shortcomings, which I'll show you, but overall, you're going to play her just like you would our first group of brawlers, the Marksman. Now, I just told you that Maisie deals 1,920 damage per shot, and that's true, unless you equip her first star power, Pinpoint Precision. This gives her 10% more damage, but only at max shot distance. Now, this comes in handy against these first brawlers, as I can place her at max range. Now, she doesn't have as long of a range as some of these brawlers, but what she does have is a greater unload speed to her shot. With this, she can burst out 3 shots in rapid succession, and because of that, she beats brawlers like Piper, even though Piper's damage is actually greater. Now, this holds true for all of the brawlers here. She is on par with all of these brawlers damage-wise, but simply unloads her shots really fast. Even with the insane damage of Nani, she manages to beat her, albeit very so slightly. Now, Bonnie in cannon form has plenty of health, but with that added damage, Maisie is able to win this one as well. So on paper, it looks like she should dominate the other marksmen, right? Well, not so fast. Maisie is actually more of a defensive long-range brawler. She gets outranged by brawlers like Piper, Nani, Mandy, and even Brock. And actually, this isn't that great of a matchup for her. But it's not that bad, actually. The range disparity is actually pretty close, and once you get in range, if you can hit your shots, you're going to do pretty well. However, Maisie is a new breed of long-range brawler that has a kit that excels not just for dealing damage, but for surviving. Now, you're going to see that much more clearly when she faces off against the assassins, which is, well, right now. Now, assassins do best when they pick the right target to attack and at the right time. This is even more important when it comes to Maisie, and while she doesn't have the hit points to stand toe-to-toe with Buzz, she makes it respectable, and of course the story is the same for Fang and, well, Sam as well. But the other brawlers on this list like Crow and Stu can't seem to take her out without a super. Now, assassins normally love seeing another long-range brawler come into the meta, but they might change their opinion after Maisie because she has a couple of tricks up her sleeve to defend herself. First and foremost is her super ability, aptly named Shockwave. When used, she will wind up and unleash a massive attack, dealing almost 1,900 damage and knocking enemies back. This can be further enhanced by using her second star power that will cause anyone affected by Shockwave to be slowed down for 2 seconds. And yeah, I think you see where I'm headed with this. You have an Edgar jump in on you, one super and he is damaged, slowed, and knocked back. But her super is not the only thing that's going to help her defend herself because she has another gadget, and it's called Disengage. When pressed, it will launch Maisie backwards a few tiles as well as stunning enemies for half of a second. The point here is that Maisie has multiple abilities to deal with assassins or, for that matter, anyone who gets really close. And for this reason, it is not the greatest matchup for assassins. I mean, if you want to take out Maisie, you're going to need to be wary of her super and gadget, or you just might find yourself on the wrong side of this battle. Now, there's no marksman in Brawl Stars that can stand toe-to-toe with a tank and come out on top, but Maisie does make it a point here not to get slaughtered. I mean, yes, she loses to Bull up close, but I mean, who doesn't? Daryl sends her to the same fate, but against other tanks like Rosa, the fight isn't completely one-sided. I mean, if she could have gotten off one more shot, it might have been a different story. Lucky for Maisie, she has another gadget that is just for this purpose. This gadget is called Finish Them, which, aside from being a fun Mortal Kombat reference, it's not so fun for enemies of Maisie. What this gadget does is it makes it so she instantly reloads one ammo, as well as makes her next shot deal 30% extra damage based upon how much health the target is missing. I mean, that sounds like a lot of mental gymnastics to figure out when it's going to be a good point, but just put it this way. If the person you're fighting has lots of health and they're missing lots of health, yeah, it's going to work good. This gadget really packs a wall up against tanks who already have a lot of health missing. And of course, more health missing means more damage for this gadget. So yes, Buster can bust her down to 0 health, and Meg manages to actually win a fight now that she starts off in her mech form, although it's not by much. Primo follows up with a beatdown, and Ash joins in on the party too, and this looks like a one-sided affair, but Maisie isn't what she seems because, and call me crazy, but I think she's going to do pretty decent against tanks in a real game. I mean, she's no Shelly with a super, but she does have ways to survive. It only takes her 3 shots to get her super, so you can keep cycling supers to keep tanks away from you. You mess up and you miss a super? Well, you got a gadget for that one too. Now, I'm not saying it's a positive matchup for Maisie if a tank gets close, but for a marksman, she can deal with it pretty darn well. Unlike the next set of brawlers who she might have some serious issues with. Now, as you would expect, in these 1v1 base interactions, the throwers don't really tell you a whole lot, except that Grom has a staggering amount of damage, but of course, you already knew that. Tick goes down without putting up much of a fight, although Barley and Dynamite both at least let Maisie know that they were there. Penny, on the other hand, does a respectable job, but if we do take a look at a real game scenario, you're going to find that Maisie, for all of her defensive prowess, doesn't really have any way of permanently dislodging a thrower from behind a wall. I mean, sure, she can super them and knock them back, and she might be able to use that time to run around and get an open shot, but for the most part, she can't deal with a thrower. And while she dunks on these brawlers in base level interactions, I think in a real game, she's gonna have a tough time. Now, on top of that, she has one major weakness that is really going to limit how you play her, and that's going to be highlighted as she faces off against our next set of brawlers. Now, initially when I saw Maisie, I thought she was going to be classified as a damage dealer, not a marksman, because I think that she has enough versatility to be included here. Now, you'll notice that she trades blows with these brawlers. Carl, she's able to beat without much issue, but Chester, when cycled to his 3rd shot, puts on a disappearing act, and Maisie is the assistant. She's able to burst Spike down as he doesn't have the hit points, but 8-Bit, he has plenty to go around, and couple that with his superior damage, gives him the win. Shelly does what Shelly does at close range, but Colt and Rico, once again, don't have the hit points or the burst damage to deal with her. They're more sustained damage brawlers. She goes toe-to-toe with all of these brawlers, and some of them she wins, but some others not so much. That's why I thought that she would fit at home here, but alas, she is a marksman, and so when you put these two brawlers against each other in a real game scenario, it's going to be just like a mixed bag. This is pretty much as fair of a matchup with an entire group as you can ask for. And since her shots don't pierce, she might have trouble with someone like Nita, who already beats her in a base level interaction. But the biggest weakness that Maisie has is her slower reload speed, and worse than that, how slow her shot is initially. Maisie's shot traveling slow at the start really makes it to where you absolutely have to aim your shots. Now, I know OJ loves to say auto aim, best aim, but in this case, auto aim is the worst aim.
Emotional damage.
Maisie is horrible with auto aim. You will miss shots like crazy with her, so when you're playing her, do not auto aim. Sorry, OJ. Now, our next group of brawlers are not ones that can carry a team on their own, and really, Maisie isn't that brawler either. I mean, yes, she is a strong piece of the puzzle, but not the cornerstone. She does, however, have enough to outdamage almost all of these brawlers. Gus is a pretty comparable brawler in many ways, but where he lacks is in raw damage, and Maisie, well, she does pretty well there. Byron and his trickle damage can't burst down anyone in time, and even though Ruffs has a fast unload speed like Maisie, he still loses. Now Max, on the other hand, defines rapid shots and uses that to her advantage to win this interaction. Now in a game scenario, I think this is a very good matchup for Maisie. Well, that is, aside from Max. I think Max is going to be one of the hardest counters to Maisie in the game. Maisie's slower shot is going to make it easier for Max to dodge them, and you already saw what she can do toe-to-toe. So watch out for that energy drink chugging speedster if you're playing the newest Brawler, as it just might be a pretty darn tough matchup. But other than that, I think that you're going to be in a favorable spot here as Maisie, and you should excel as long as the support Brawler's friends don't show up and crash the party. Now our last group to face off against Maisie is the Controllers. These Brawlers all love to control the field in one way or another, but they're also all quite different at the same time. Now most of them do have one thing in common though. They get stomped. Willow gets sent back to the tunnel without any love, and Otis, even with his extra ink drops, goes down in a close one. Squeak is still waiting for that last shot to go off, and Sandy's Pebbles, it's just not enough. Jesse made it interesting, but came up short. And Lou's Freeze, well, that went off after he was already cold in the ground. There are, however, some standouts here. Griff, of course, has absolutely insane damage that few Brawlers can handle. And Mr. P does win, but only if he can get both suitcases to hit on the way in, bloop, bloop, and the way out. Gale does a great job, but he decides it's finally time to retire, and Amber's Stream of Fire is no match for Maisie's Pressure Rocket. Now in a real game, this one's pretty fair as well. There will be times when you're on the winning side and times where it's going to be not so good. But for the most part, this once again is a pretty even matchup. So then, you've seen Maisie 1v1 versus every Brawler in Brawl Stars. How good is she going to be, and where is she going to excel? Well, I mean, Maisie has some weaknesses, for sure, with her slow reload speed and her shot speed initially. However, those deficiencies are more than made up for with her defensive capabilities. I think that she is going to do well in most modes. In Brawl Ball, she's going to be able to defend very well with her super knocking the ball out of opponents' hands, and if enemies group up, she is going to devastate them. Now Maisie has enough escapability to deal with tanks and assassins in Showdown, so she might do all right there, but it's probably not going to be her best mode. I mean, not horrible, but definitely not her best. In Hot Zone, I think that she's going to do pretty well holding a point, as well as in other team-based modes. I think that she's going to do very good there too. Probably her weakest mode will be Heist, as she doesn't have a ton of sustained damage, it's more burst, but I don't think she's going to be horrible there either. But I think the best part is that she's just fun to play. So with everything that you just saw, plus all the time that I've got to play her so far, I think that I'd give her a good solid 8 out of 10, maybe a little bit more, but I don't know. 8 out of 10 seems about right. I'd say that overall she is balanced, or on the strong side of balanced. Okay, yeah, I mean on the strong side of balanced. But I mean definitely balanced, but yeah, on the strong side. Yeah, she's balanced on the strong side.